Happy Wednesday! Hello, everyone. It is Wednesday and it is noon. Time for a little lunch and real estate talk. This is my Halloween costume in honor of today's topic on real estate horror stories. We absolutely are going to be talking about some horror some horror stories that we have experienced with our one of our favorite guests. My food thing, y'all know that. So thank you, Nicole. Congratulations on Colson. Oh my gosh, she's super, super cute. Well, hello.
Hello there.
I'm your flapper girl for today, in honor
I
of Halloween.
see. Wait a minute. I didn't know that we was getting dressed up.
I mean, I like to
I
give you a little
mean,
razzle dazzle.
okay. I'm here for the razzle and the dazzle. A little
Love that.
chic it.
Love that. Because you've been giving me a little telenovela, so I decided I was gonna give you a
I
little.
mean, but I mean, I'm not prepared for. I could have been a flapper girl too.
Well, no.
We could
You're
have
just
been
gonna be your
flapping.
amazing self. It's fine.
We could have been flapping. Just saying.
Not you could have been flapping.
I could have been flapping. Okay.
We'll take all of the amazingness.
Yes. I'm gonna try to get this glare. Okay, that's better.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, perfect. Okay, cool.
So, real estate horror stories. Angel, you've been in the business. You and I both have actually been in the business hey Dawn, for a little while. So, I know you have some horror stories. There's a few? Okay, that's fair. So, today we're going to be discussing real estate horror stories because this is a topic that I felt was very fitting for the month of October. This is very fitting for our amazingly challenged market. You and I have had many a conversation about buyers and sellers, just kind of how they think about today's market and where they get their information from. And so I know a lot of buyers in this market right now are just kind of moth to a flame when it comes to these new construction neighborhoods, right? So kind of talk to us a little bit about, do you have a horror story that relates to one of your clients that was buying in a new construction neighborhood?
Well, of course I do.
Of course you do.
Of course I do, honey. So it's very important for people to know and understand their rights and to getting inspections, even with new construction.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, you will have a builder or an on-site agent to tell you that no, you cannot have your own independent inspection. That is so far from the truth. And the more you know, the more you can tell them that is not a true statement, and the buyer is entitled to have that. I encourage every buyer to get an inspection, even if it's new construction. Why? Because humans put that property together.
And human error is a real thing.
So,
there you
go. Humans make mistakes. And so with that being said, had a situation with a very well-known developer. Won't call any names, but again, people make mistakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so during our inspection, you know that with new construction, you have a drywall inspection and then a final inspection, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what happens after the drywall has already gone up? And so during our inspection, it was revealed that there was a leak that was not visible to our eyes. The sheetrock was nice and pretty and well painted.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the construction, when they were installing the stairs in the home, a nail somehow put a hole in some of the plumbing, or a pipe or whatever.
Wow.
And there was a leak happening that there was no evidence of the leak whatsoever yet. Right?
So there was there was no watermarks. There was no bubbling of anything. You couldn't tell that there was any kind of damage or any kind of water behind this wall. So
none.
From my understanding, at this point, the drywall is up. So you no longer have a pre-drywall inspection. You are strictly looking at the house because there are things that you're not going to notice to the naked eye, right? And
Right.
so that's one of them. So can you only imagine what would have happened if your buyer didn't have their inspection. And to your point, if they didn't have an inspection by a highly qualified inspector, like the ones you always recommend to your clients.
Right. So we were doing our final walkthrough, right? And they don't allow you to have a inspection until that final walkthrough, kind of your blue tape. They want your inspector to actually come at the same time that you're doing the blue tape. And so it was doing that inspection that the inspector, with his little radar, x-ray, can
Well,
see behind the
devices.
walls, devices, those things, that he was able to see that there was a leak behind the wall.
Lovely. So get you an inspector that's highly qualified and has some devices, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. And don't tell them that don't allow them to tell you that you can't have an inspection done.
So then what happened? Because so the inspector comes through, they use their device, they find the leak, right? So then what happens?
They had to tear out the stairs.
I'm sorry, what?
You heard what I said. They had to tear out the stairs to get to the pipe to replace it. And when they pulled out the stairs, there was lots of water on top of the concrete back, where
So
it
water was
was.
just pooling behind the stairs, behind this wall.
But because of the distance with the pipe and the stairs, the water had not come to the point where, because the water has to have somewhere to go, right?
And it's gonna find a way to
Eventually
get to wherever it
it's
wants to
going to
go.
find a way to get out. And so, but the water had not gotten to the point where it would have either come through the carpet, come through the hardwoods, or leak into the garage, just yet. But it was,
Wow.
a matter of time before that water would have found its way. And then at that point, yes, there's warranty, right? You have the warranties,
But
whatever.
what's the warranty for water? Because at that
And
point, they wouldn't have taken out the stairs at that point.
they would not have taken out the stairs.
Mm-mm.
But
And of course, our amazing closing attorney in the comments wants to know what happened to the closing. She wants to know what happened to the closing.
it was
Nicole.
delayed. It was delayed. We're not closing. Okay. We're not
No,
closing. No,
I
absolutely.
absolutely love that Nicole wanted to know what was going on with the closing.
Hey,
Of course, the
Nicole.
closing attorney wants to know what's going on with the closing. And Don said, "Wow, that's amazing. Like the fact
Yes.
that if you guys hadn't found that leak prior to closing, guaranteed that builder would not have taken out those stairs to correct what was going on. And on top of that, not to say that they would have done this, but there's a possibility that they could have said, hey, that's something that happened post closing. And then it would have been, you had to prove that it was done prior to closing. So that gets into a whole Georgia law kind of a situation. If you don't know, you don't know, right? So
Right.
since we're talking about Georgia law, termites is a really big thing in Atlanta with this red clay. It's a really big issue. Have you ever had any issues with the seller disclosing something? Because let's be very clear, you guys, the seller can disclose something or the listing agent can disclose something, but it's always important to research and verify the information that you're being given. Don't just go off of what they said because you think people are honest and they're amazing and they're going to tell you the truth all the time. They may have the best intentions, but that's just simply not what happened. So, can you tell us about a horror story that you might have had in regards to termites?
Just a few months ago. Listen, I
Oh, so
got horror stories.
2025. Okay.
Yes. A recent closing where I was representing a buyer,
Okay.
and again with an inspection, and I use a company that does not only just a general inspection, but they include roof, they include termite, and all the things, right? And so what was interesting was the company that I use, All Inspect Atlanta, they're amazing. They sent out Arrow, right? And the inspector from Arrow said, well, as I was pulling up, there was a Terminix person there that the seller had sent out, right?
Okay.
And they exchange in conversation. He's looking like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Whatnot. And he said, oh, I'm just about to write up this clear termite letter for the seller.
So, real
So,
quick, What is a clear termite letter? Just so people, if they have any questions about what that is, they'll know what that is.
A clear termite letter is a letter from a reputable company that simply states that this home does not have a current termite or wood destroying insect infestation.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. And
So
so,
the company was going to issue that, meaning that there were no active termites, there was no infestation, they had nothing to worry about. They saw no termites, there were no termites, and so they were going to issue the letter. Does that sound correct?
yes,
But was
yes.
that the truth?
My arrow inspector did not allow that to deter him from conducting his own inspection.
But can you imagine if he said, "Well, I don't got to do this inspection. I really could just build and send them my invoice for what this costs for me to come out here and call it a day." So again, having reputable contractors at your helm, vendors, is always vital to the transaction. So you were saying,
So the inspector FaceTimed me while he was at the inspection,
okay,
FaceTimed me, and I can see the termites swarming around him in the FaceTime. And I was like, what is that? And he said, these are termites. And I was like, ew, gross. And so I was like, well, wait a minute. Let me get the listing agent on the phone. And this is where having two phones does come into play, right? It's great. And I was able to FaceTime her and say, hey, you see what I see? There's termites. The termites were not only in the garage, but also on that same exterior wall up in the attic. So they were in two separate places, right? And she said, oh, no, my guy just said that there are no termites. Ma'am, they swarming around this guy. Well, let me call him because he said he was issuing a clear termite letter. Clearly, it's not clear.
so I'm flabbergasted because
So was I.
it just
So was
goes
I.
back to the integrity of a company. But so okay, so the termites were found, and as
Yes,
everybody knows, termites are very prevalent in Georgia. This is
they're
kind of what it
common.
is. They're very common. So
Nothing to be
what
alarmed about
right?
until they start to destroy your home. Good thing these were on the exterior, so no damage to the actual house.
Okay.
So that's good that they had not done any damage or whatnot. But what people we need to know is that Georgia law requires for a seller, the seller, not the buyer,
Mm-hmm.
that when an active infestation is found, that the seller has to provide a 1-year bond for treatment and remediation. Now, that's
Wait.
one.
So let's back up a second, because I think a lot of people may have missed that. So if active termites are found on a home that you are currently under contract, you're purchasing, right? This
Mhm.
is a solvable issue. So
Yes.
you're saying that per Georgia law, you have to provide the seller, sorry, it has to provide the buyer with a termite bond, at least a 1 year termite bond, and that has to be a repair and retreat, correct?
No. It
Okay.
has to be a remediate, which means to get rid of, take them away, get rid of them. That does not mean damage. You have to ask for damage if there is damage separately.
Okay, so
So
then
that's
here
two
we
things. That's
learning
two
lesson.
things.
So okay, so they have to provide you with a termite bond for remediation, but they don't have to provide you with a termite bond that's a repair and retreat. But that's exactly what you should ask for
Or
is a repair because that takes care of the damage that's caused by the termites, right? But it also has a retreat clause in there that says, okay, the bond is going to treat the termites. But in the event that any damage is caused by the termites, they're going to take care of the damage. Also, if the termites come back and they have to retreat, that takes care of that as well. Okay.
right.
So we learned you dropping gems all over the place. So go ahead. Drop
So
some more.
yes. So agents need to know not to just focus on the remediation and the treatment of the termites. They need to say, hey, well, was there any damage caused? Like for instance, termites can be found like around the wood of the windows, the door frame, all those things and whatnot. And if there's wood damage, you need to ask for a repair of those things that is separate from the treatment.
So our amazing attorney Nicole Pettis over at O'Kelly Sorhan in Cobb Galleria wants to know: would you suggest doing a termite inspection during the due diligence period?
Yes, because that's oftentimes when your inspections and you have, well, buyers have the most leverage during the diligence period, which is also the time that you should be getting all inspections for the house done. And so that is your time to where you have those reports from those inspections that you can express the concerns to the seller, and you can negotiate on what they will and will not do. You need to know what's your turning point or your cutoff to say, hey, this is not something that I want to continue to move forward with, and you can terminate that agreement and get your earnest money back. So during the due diligence is the most pivotal time. Yes.
And it's the perfect time to do your termite
All
inspection.
inspections,
Yeah.
all inspections should be done during your due diligence. And if it means that you have to, like for instance, with septic tanks, because we do have that in Georgia, we have to deal with those things, and
Mm-hmm.
those can take a little longer. If you have to do a septic tank and you have to wait for that information to come back, it might mean that you might need a longer due diligence, or you have
Mm-hmm.
to ask for expiration. I'm sorry, extension of those.
Right. Absolutely. Great question, Nicole. Thank you so much for your engagement. Kiss Colson for me. So Georgia law seems to be very prevalent in pretty much everything that we do. And
Absolutely.
if you're not on what that is, wait, Nicole said 9 out of 10 contracts that I see say clear termite letter prior to closing. Having the right agent matters. Absolutely, Nicole. Yes, Colson has a phenomenal mama.
Yes.
So does Ryan. Um, Ideally, even if you get a clear termite letter, you all right? Even if you get a clear termite letter from your seller during your inspection period or your due diligence period, I would advise, and I'm sure Angel would advise as well, to go ahead, and since you're already having your inspection done, go ahead and do a pest and termite inspection just to be on the safe side. You rather it be a situation where you have two letters that say that there are no termites than one that does and one that doesn't. So just go ahead and CYA and get your inspections done.
Especially if you know that the home does not already have a bond for treatment. And one way, well, there's new ways that they're doing it with new construction homes. It's actually
In
in
the
the
wall.
walls of the
Yeah.
home. Or if you will see the green baits around the perimeter of the property. So if you know that the house does not have either one, then you definitely want to get an inspection, because we live in Georgia, and the clay attracts them.
And it just does. So agents got to know your contracts, right? In and out. Georgia law is something that we have to be up on. And one thing that has been in the news a lot lately is squatters. And Georgia has some very interesting Georgia has some very interesting laws when it comes to squatters. And I think there is one law in particular that I had a conversation with Angel about that I think a lot of people don't know. So, Angel, do you have a horror story when it comes to a squatter or two?
Unfortunately, yes.
Fair.
Yes, I do.
We
I
both
had,
actually have squatter stories, which is crazy.
listen, and let me tell you, I learned the law from a squatter,
Because
because they
these,
know.
let me say, these squatters and these
They're
scammers,
educated.
they are educated. They know
They
the system
know.
and they know how to finagle it.
She knew everything, and she was a professional. Let's start there. She was a professional. However, she didn't know who she was dealing with.
Mm.
And so it was a property I had on the market as a lease,
Hmm.
had a contractor's lockbox on it and a super lockbox. And to this day, I don't know how those lockboxes were attached, not just to the doorknob, but to the railing. And the good thing is, we caught it really, really early. I was representing a client out of California. His sister is local, and so the sister was driving by every week or whatnot. So we found out that she had moved in on a Saturday, and we noticed on a Monday.
Wow.
So I get a phone call, say, "Hey, we think there's squatters at the house." It's 8:30 at night. What I do, I put on my sneakers and I get in my car, and I go to the house,
And,
and
and you grabbed your purse. That I know you did.
Yes, because my yes,
Yes. Okay.
and yes, and so I pulled up to the house, and it looked normal, but I
Okay.
did notice I didn't have a sign in the front yard because I was trying to present this. And 18 years in the real estate, I've never dealt with this, and so I knock on a door. I don't hear anything. I open the door. The door is unlocked. I stick my head in and I announce myself.
Mm-hmm.
Angel Crayton, 14th and Lux Realty. And so I said that, I hear a dog bark. I don't know where he's coming from. So I close the door. As I start to close the door back, I hear someone says, yes. Now, mind you, when I opened the door, it looked like someone just opened the door and threw a bunch of stuff on the floor and walked out. So clearly I knew someone was there.
Yeah.
She says yes. I close the door on back. She comes to the door. Very nice at first. Um, yes, I was like, well, my name is Angel Crayton with 14th and Lux. And so I have this property marketed as a lease. I need to know, how did you get authorization to be here? And she said, oh, I just moved in on Saturday, gave me a whole story, whatever, whatever. I
Bold.
asked,
In
bold,
bold and brazen. Oh my goodness.
bold, bold. And I asked, well, do you have a lease agreement? So she said yes. She goes in the house, close the door, come back. It's a lease, very generic. And a couple things that I noticed right away. Number one, the seller was Angel Crayton with 14th and Lux Realty. Well, we don't own that property. Thank you, but no thank you. And as I continue to look through the lease, are two signers on the lease. And I asked, well, who is this other person? And she says, oh, that's my 16-year-old daughter. Right away, just from a 16-year-old cannot sign a lease. So that makes that lease, it's not forcible, or it's unenforceable, avoidable, whichever word you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have a 16 or a minor on the lease as an occupant of the property, but they
Right.
cannot sign the lease. You can't do that until you're 18 years old.
Wow.
So that's two things, and my name was spelled, whoever signed my name it was Angel Crayton, who I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is either.
So right. So I start asking questions like, how did you get in? Who was the realtor? What she looked like? Oh, where did you find the property? Oh, I found it on Facebook. Okay, pull it up for me. Couldn't pull it up. How much money did you pay to be here? She said, how much money did you pay? Oh, it was 20 something. Total, I paid $5,200. Okay. How did you pay? She said, you're not gonna believe this. Cash. Okay, can you show me where you pull the money out of the account? I'm going through all of these things, can't produce anything. What the woman looked like, what is her name? I had to ask her 3 times before she gave me a name, which I could tell by that time she had made something up. Anyway, so I call the police. Police come on site. He can look and see that it is, a fraudulent lease,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. For someone who had just lost, or $5,200, and that was all the money that I had in my account, she wasn't distraught. She was trying to come up with some tears. They couldn't find her.
They weren't
they
falling.
she they couldn't
Tears
find
weren't
her. they,
falling.
they yep couldn't turn the faucet on, or the faucet turned on and she hadn't paid the water bill because there was no water coming. And
No.
yes. And so the area where this house is located, the police officer informed me, number one, we
Mhm.
have to go through Fulton County Marshal.
Okay.
And so they didn't do anything. They allowed her to go back in the house. And as he was leaving, he showed me where he just got another call for a similar situation. Well, Georgia law, there was a law signed by our governor in April of 2024. And
And
it's
this is
called
the
the
part that most people don't know. Go ahead.
Yes, and I found out from another realtor.
Hmm.
But April 2024, signed by our governor, the Squatters Act was signed, where if a squatter is in a home and police officers show up, or police officers are called, they can't produce legal documentation for being in that property. They are issued a citation and they have 3 days to leave the property. 3 days.
None of that.
However, this law officer did not enforce that law. When I spoke with his major about not enforcing that law, he said, oh, yeah, we don't, it's at the officer's discretion to enforce that law. I was like, oh, so if I commit murder, it's at your discretion whether you enforce a law to say that I'm a criminal for doing so? And we had to go through the regular eviction process because that officer decided not to enforce the law that was just signed April 2024. And so who are they protecting and serving? It seemed in this situation that the criminal, the squatter, professional squatter, was protected more than my seller in this case, because they had to pay the mortgage, continue to pay the mortgage on that property. They had to continue to pay the utilities on that property, and they were in the process of
Wait a
moving
minute.
from. Mhm.
They paid the
Yes,
utilities?
yes, you
As high as
cannot.
these rates are for this electricity, they had to pay. They had to pay that.
Light, gas, and water. It is
Oh, absolutely
against
not.
the law. It is against the law for the seller to disconnect utility services at their property when a squatter has taken residence.
Girl. So again, these are things that people either don't know, never heard of, or they don't believe could be true. Because there's no way you could tell me that I can't turn the electricity, the water, or the gas off in my house if I'm not there.
We went to, because that's the first thing I said, turn all the utilities off. And when we went down to Fulton County um, um, magistrate to file for an eviction, we found out that you can't do that. Not only that, they were already in the process of moving from California to Atlanta. They were scheduled to be back on that Tuesday. We found out that Monday. So now they're displaced. They don't have anywhere to stay.
So they got to pay the mortgage, they got to pay the utilities, and now they got to find somewhere for them to lay their head because they can't live where they thought they were going to live.
They had to reroute their furniture being delivered.
So they
They had
were
to,
having furniture delivered to this house.
they had pods. They're moving from California to Atlanta. Their stuff was in pods to be delivered to the home, and they had to get an Airbnb. And so I will say that the process took us 6 weeks to get her out. However, there are situations that take much longer. So I
Yeah.
went on a Tuesday to file for an eviction. She was served on that Friday. I had to send her a demand letter. Now, in the beginning, like I said, she was really nice and she was cordial. So we had exchanged phone numbers. She was just coming from work, so she had her employee badge on. So I took a picture of the employee badge because I was asking her employment verification. How did you do? You make enough income to stay in this property? Because the rental rate was going to be $2,700.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a picture of your employee badge. Of course, I called to see.
Wait,
I
you
did.
you called the lady's employer to
I
verify her
did.
income?
I did. I did. I did. To verify employment, verification of income and employment. I did. Because you have, mind you, you have a lease that has my name on it.
Wow.
I like that.
Wow.
I never seen that before. Yes.
You, Patty
Yes.
Tolly, what is verifying Victoria? I can't even believe. I can't even. I mean, but you are well within your rights because this is someone who has said they applied for, an application on a property that you were leasing. It's a part of the verification process to determine whether or not that's a good tenant for your client. So I
You
mean,
have a lease. You have a lease with my name on it. So you've established a relationship.
oh,
And I didn't
so
give that, and I didn't give that lease back. She said, "Can I have the lease back?" Absolutely not.
so let me ask you. You had to file a regular eviction, essentially a regular eviction for this process. And you said this process took 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Because what happened is they I filed for the eviction. They have to serve her.
Mm-hmm.
And serving is on the time clock of the marshals, Fulton County Sheriff's Department, not the marshals, Fulton County Sheriff's Department.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what their calendar is or how their schedule is. You don't know when that's going to happen. Fortunately, she was served on Friday.
So you filed.
So
So you found out Monday.
I found out Monday,
Filed Tuesday.
filed on Tuesday.
She was served on Friday.
She was served on Friday.
Okay.
So
That's actually really quick.
that's especially for Fulton County.
Yes.
That's very quick.
Yes.
So once you're served, you have 7 days to answer. Okay. So you can choose not to answer, and then a writ can be applied for by the owner, and it'll be done. But if they go file for an answer, or they go answer that eviction notice, then you're issued a court date.
Well, to be clear, you can tell that she is a professional because anybody else would have just left.
I was like, she is
Anyone
not
else
gonna.
would have just left. The sheriffs would have come and it'd have been over with. But because she's a professional, she knew that was gonna buy her more time. So
Exactly.
of course she answered.
Yes. And
She knew that was gonna
so
buy her more time.
she knew it was going to buy her more time. And so she went and answered, which means court date. And you never know when the court date is going to be. So that was, I think, 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks later.
So that's
And
4 weeks of free room and board. Well, free room and free
utilities,
utilities.
all the things.
Wow.
Yes, all the things. So I was like, surely she's not going to show up at court. She's not going to show up at court. We're sitting in
And
court. And who shows up with fresh new boho braids, Jordan sneakers on?
well,
That's
she was
wasn't.
saving money. Of course, she had a new hairstyle. She saved some money. She ain't paid no rent, and she
And
definitely didn't pay $5,200 to nobody.
nobody, and showed up with an attitude as if we were doing something wrong for you being in their property.
You disturbing her place of residence.
I'm here for it. I was here for it. I was here for it.
Okay,
Um,
get into court.
so we get to court.
Okay.
She doesn't want myself or the fiance of the owner of the property to be in the room. And the owner, very sweet. She want to see the good in everybody, whatnot. So they choose to let's talk to a mediator.
Okay.
So she's supposed to be out within 7 days, which means that would have ended on a Sunday at 11:59. She's supposed to be out.
Okay.
I said, okay, all right. So we'll show up Monday morning. She's supposed to leave the key under the mat, whatnot. We arrive Monday. She's still in the property.
Of course she is. She's already been given 7 additional days. It took 4 weeks for the court date, 7 more days to get out. Of course she's still there. That's 5 weeks where
Five
she has
weeks.
paid nobody rent. She has paid no hotel bill. She has paid no Airbnb. She has paid no mortgage. That is 4 weeks. Sorry, 5 weeks
Yes.
where she has stayed somewhere free and clear.
Yes.
5
Yes.
weeks. Okay.
5 weeks.
Okay.
5 weeks.
Ahead.
So when we get there, there is a moving truck that's pulling up in front of the driveway. I roll up and she walks out the house and says, "Oh, it's her again. Oh my God, what is she doing here?" Start, blabbing all these superlatives. I was all these names, and I was just laughing. Just my presence annoyed her. And
Holly pop
so,
up.
right, yes. I mean, it's my client. I'm not gonna just let them pop up to the property, or no, drive up to your property that you own by themselves, unrepresented, whatnot. They said, "Well, are we gonna leave?" No, we're gonna park across. I call my attorney. Hey, do I have to leave, or can I park across the street and just wait for her to leave? And my attorney said, this is a free country. You can do whatever you want to. And so that's what we did. They were in their car, 2 separate cars. I was in my vehicle. So it's 3 cars parked across the street. I let the hatch up on the back of my car and I just sit there. This pissed her off.
Heady.
Oh, she was mad, mad.
Mad.
Oh, she was mad.
She was big mad. Did you give her a cape so she could be super mad?
Super mad with an SM on the chest. Okay. Yes. Yes. Let me drape you with the cape.
Wow. So she was supposed to be out Sunday night. Y'all got there Monday morning. She was still there. 5 weeks had lapsed. So now what? Now what happens?
Now what she said, and she in this moment gave me instruction on what I was supposed to do. She was like, I know my rights. I know my rights. You can't put me out. You can't do anything. You don't have the paperwork. I got my paperwork. You have to go do X, Y, and Z. So I called my attorney again. What are our next steps? We have to go back to the courthouse. And now you have to submit an application for a writ to evict. What? They left this part of the process out because I thought she's gonna be gone. Number one, she's not gone. Okay, let me call and get the sheriff. Marsh.
But she's a professional, so why would she leave? She knew
She
if she
knew.
wasn't gone at the agreed upon time,
She
she
knew.
knew you still had another step, which is going to
Yes,
buy her more time.
more time.
Of course,
Yes.
that's a professional.
Going to
She
the
knew.
courthouse and the court and telling the court that I'm going to be out by Sunday at 11:59 and she's not out. She knew there was no harm coming to her. And what we also found out is because there is no relationship between her and the seller cannot sue her for any restitution or any because there was no relationship or engagement created.
That's why the seller's name wasn't on the lease, correct?
Exactly. Exactly. And that is another good point. That is why brokers stress so much to other agents to make sure that you have that broker engagement to create that relationship.
Correct. So
Yes.
she's still in the house on Monday. You go down. You go down on Monday or you go down on Tuesday to file the writ.
We went down on Monday while she was quote unquote moving things out. And when we were watching, she had three teenagers which was sad, and you could tell the teenagers this was nothing uncommon for them because they weren't affected by it or anything. Moving the stuff, she had drills. They had pictures on the wall. They coming out with all these things like she had really set up home.
Wow.
Really had really set up home. And so that was the sad part about it. We had to go back to the courthouse, file the application. What happens from that point is the application goes before the judge. The judge has to approve the application, and then the sheriff department gets it for them to evict the property. I mean, evict whomever the occupant in the property.
And how long does that take, or how long did it take?
We did not get a sign from the judge until the end of the week. I think it came on a Saturday. And so then you have to take that to the sheriff's department, and then the sheriff's department will schedule the eviction. But by that time she was gone. So we didn't have to wait for the sheriff's department part, but we did have to wait for the approval from the approval of the writ application before we could enter the property.
So a little over 6 weeks. Sound about right? A little over 6 weeks. You finally get this person out of the house. Your clients are happy. Can you speak? And on top of that, your client can't sue this person for damages to their house. Can you speak to like what happened with the property? Like, was there any damage done to it? Oh, so
So
that face means yes.
in the short time that she was there, remember I said there was a dog, and clearly the dog had been kept in the laundry area and had not been taken out on a regular basis. There was a cat. So the smell of, not cleaning up after a dog or a cat that was left in the property. Of
Pet urine
course,
is
there
one of
was.
the hardest smells to get out of a house next to cigarette smoke.
Yes. Yes. So they went in, had a oxidation
Mm-hmm.
something, whatever. Um we clean I went over and helped with the cleaning or whatever, cleaning out the poop and all the things. So no, the dog had gnawed on one of the stairs or whatever. So on top of all the thousands of dollars that have already been spent, mortgage, utilities, them having a place to stay.
Yeah,
Now
cost, the eviction costs, all that stuff. That stuff is not free. All that costs
it's
money.
not free. It's not free. All of that costs. And now you having to rent oxidation machines and all this stuff. And then they wanted to paint. And so, which they bought this property back in September, was planning to Airbnb it, change of things happen or whatever. They end up moving in it. Good thing that they, had not rented it out because their home was not ready yet. But just all those things from someone having the audacity to believe that you're entitled to take from
Someone else.
someone else. And in this case, it is shelter, it is the essentials of water, gas, and lights.
The
It's a
other part of that
sad turn of
is
events.
the audacity of a law enforcement that's supposed to protect and serve not to enforce a law.
Yes. And so, because of them, this is the funny part. Because of my pettiness, but still keeping it professional, I never said anything to her out the way. I had actually given her resources, text her resources. Hey, look into what is it called? Where you can rent a room, something pad.
Oh, pamphlet.
Yeah, pad split, whatever. So you're not homeless. And here's relationships that I have with people who help women in situations where they need shelter or whatever. I had
She
given her
don't want that.
resources for that. She didn't want that. But she sent me a cease and desist letter
I love it.
for she sent me a cease and desist letter for contacting her job, for calling child protective services on her, because I did, because you have a daughter with Hodgkin's
Hodgkin's
disease.
disease. Uh-huh.
Yes, that you are having her, you're in endangerment, having her live in a place that you don't have the right to live in. I did call child protective services on her. I had written out, uh, Trevor had helped me and assisted me with all the laws that she had broken or whatever, and that was in my demand letter. So yeah,
Wow.
because I have to protect my clients.
You do. Wow.
So yes, I learned the law
What
from the squatter.
what a story. Angel, we've been in the business for quite some time. And
18
it sounds
years.
like you've got some stories. So I would absolutely, I'd love it if you could come back. We're doing a series all month long in honor of, well, not in honor, but for Halloween. We're talking about real estate horror stories, and we had some amazing stories with the broker bay herself, Angel
I'm
Crayton of
back.
14th and
I'm
Lux.
back.
Angel, thank you so much. Please
Thank you
come
for
back
having
and
me.
talk to us again.
And next time I'll be dressed for Halloween because I didn't get
Okay.
the memo.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
back. I'm back.
Thank you so much, y'all. Enjoy your Wednesday. Enjoy your lunchtime. Thank you so much for joining us today. Angel, you know how I feel about you. I adore you. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Y'all have an amazing day, and we'll talk to y'all soon.